Okay, so for those of you who don't know me, my name is Schnitker, and I'm the E3 coordinator this year, as well as junior studying Human Development Family Sciences. If you don't know what that is, that's okay, because it's really small. Okay, so this series is called Made in His Likeness, Labor, Leisure, Love. And last week, Christian gave an excellent talk about how we are handmade in the likeness of God, and that He gives us specific gifts that we're supposed to use throughout our life. And so tonight, I have the pleasure of talking to you guys about the next part of the series, which is labor. And so hopefully I'll touch on 3 points: what, why, and how. So let me know at the end of the night if I do that. So first, what? What is labor? I'm so thankful. I'm not giving a talk on birth or the birthing process. But I also don't know about you guys, whenever I hear the word labor, kind of a negative connotation is put with that word, and I just picture this like big sweaty man out in the crops, like under the hot sun, like with his axe in hand, just like chopping down the plants or something. And I have no upper body strength at all, and so that kind of labor is very difficult for me, and it's really not a gift that God gave me. And so what is labor? You know, that is not the actual definition of labor. What actually is labor? I define it as using the gifts that God gave you to better His kingdom. I'm going to say that again. Using the gifts God gave you to better His kingdom. So now that we have kind of a rough definition, let's talk about why. Why do we labor? Why are we bettering His kingdom here on earth? When I was writing this talk, I was told to look up Genesis, and so I'm going to read it to you guys, like story time. Genesis chapter 2, verses 1 through 3 says, "Thus the heavens and the earth and all their array were completed. On the 7th day, God completed the work He had been doing. He rested on the 7th day from all the work He had undertaken. God blessed the 7th day and made it holy, because on it He rested from all the work He had done in creation." And then a little further down in that chapter, verses 15 through 16, it says, "The Lord God then took the man and settled him in the Garden of Eden to cultivate and care for it. The Lord God gave man this order." Okay, so I'm going to break that down a little bit for you guys. The first part is talking about God's work. All the work. It says it multiple times. All the work God did. He created the universe. God Himself is a worker, and we are made in God's image and likeness, so therefore we are workers as well. But it goes farther than that. God just didn't give us the innate desire to work. He commanded us to work. So in the second part, He went on to say, to Adam, the Lord God gave the man this order. He told Adam to cultivate his garden. He told him to take care of his land. So from the beginning of time, man was called to work. Adam was human, we're human, we're all made in God's likeness, therefore we're made to work as well. So what kind of work is that? What does that look like in today's society? Well, it can look like a lot of things. It can look like a lot of things because there's so many different types of work. There's really no one right way to work, and there's really no one specific job that is better than another. And so all that really matters is how we love through our work, how we fulfill God's kingdom through our work. That's what matters. And so, like I said, we're all given special gifts by God. He handmade us individually, and He crafted us to have specific gifts and talents. We weren't all made to be engineers. We weren't all made to be teachers or counselors or nurses. If we were, then the world would just not really function. So it is so important that we use those gifts that God gave us to work and to do His labor so that we will fulfill the kingdom. And I also kind of think about dignity of work. And when I think of that, I immediately go to religious life, and then like missionary in a third world country. And we're not all called to that. Those are very beautiful things, but at the end of the day, we are not all called to that. And so the majority of us will be called to lay life, or to marriage life, different vocations, to single life. And so what is the beauty that can be found in each of those? If God calls you to the vocation of religious life, you have the opportunity to be a teacher, to be a mentor, to pray often. Like, those are beautiful jobs. If you're called to marriage, you are working for your spouse. You're working to get him or her to heaven. And you're working for your kids. Like, they watch your example. They will follow the work that you have set for them. You are teaching them about Christ and about Christ's love through the work that you are doing. Single life. There's so much beauty in that. With single life, you could be a missionary. You could do service work. You can pray. You can really do whatever you want. And there's so much beauty in that. And like, we need all of those vocations. And like I kind of already mentioned this, but I'm going to say it again because I think it's important. There's dignity in every single work. It doesn't matter if you're the CEO of a company, and it doesn't matter if it's your first job. If you're anywhere on that spectrum, then that's where you need to be. So often I feel like we get caught up in, just trying to make it up the work ladder, or trying to have the biggest paycheck. But like, at the end of the day, that's not what matters. What matters is that we are doing our work, and we're doing it well, and we're doing it for Christ. Even Jesus was a carpenter. He didn't have a college education, and he didn't have the job that everybody kind of looked at as prestige. But he did it, and he did it well, and he showed us what it meant to work with the humility and love of Christ. So I am going to share a little bit of my own testimony and the work that I feel God is calling me to do. I have never had a favorite subject. I've never been the one that's like super good at math or like super good at English to know like, all right, I'm going to be an engineer. I'm going to be a nurse. Like, some people like pop out of the womb knowing that they want to be a nurse. I have no idea how that even happens, but that is not me. It really wasn't until this summer that I felt like I had an understanding of what God's plan for me was for my life. And so this summer, I got to spend 6 weeks in Galway, Ireland, and I volunteered every day at a day center for adults with intellectual disabilities, and I just fell in love with it. I would basically go every day and assist the service users, who are basically the adults with the intellectual disability who use the day service. And so if you're a service user, that's what it is. But I would go and assist them every day in whatever activity or wherever they needed me to be, like doing office work, going to art class, going to drum class, whatever they needed me to be. But before I found out where I would be placed, I went in with this expectation that, I was going to be teaching them how to cook, and I was going to be teaching them sewing skills and literacy skills and things that they'll actually use so that they can go and get a job and they can, be integrated into the community. And I had such high expectations. And so I walked in on my first day, and they're like, okay, you're going to go on a walk for an hour and a half. I was like, all right, here we go. Women's cooking class. There was a facility that did that. There are 55 facilities throughout Galway, Ireland, and there was a facility called the Training Center that did focus on cooking classes and getting them jobs and really like integrating them into society. Mine wasn't like that. In a way it was. Mine specifically worked with 20 to 30-year-olds with autism or another intellectual disability on the moderate to lower functioning scale. So there were some service users who were very capable and could use the bus system and could pay for a meal by themselves. And be a little bit more independent, and then there are the other service users on the other side of the spectrum that were completely content just like sitting and listening to music all day. And so we had a wide range to work with. And basically, I was kind of frustrated. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of frustrated because I was like, I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna like impact these people, and instead I was going on a walk, and instead I was like banging on a bongo drum for another hour and a half. I'm not musical at all. Like, that was a shock. But it wasn't until about 2 weeks in that I really saw the beauty in each activity. There was a purpose behind every single activity. And yes, we need the facilities like the training center, but we also need my facility. And the beauty behind walking, like to the outside eye, that seems kind of like menial, and I would tell people that I went on a walk today, and they'd be like, oh, that's cool. But what I have learned is that taught them healthy living. That taught them a healthy living style and got them motivated and out into the community. There wasn't a walk that we went on that a bystander didn't stop our service user just to say hi. That is integrating them into the community. A lot of them are prone to diabetes or seizures. Like, getting them active and out there, like, that can prohibit those two things and further health risks. In drumming class, it's not just banging on bongos, it's working the creativity side of their brain. It's teaching them how to work as a team. It's teaching them how to take turns. It's teaching them how to, ask permission. They would have to like go up and ask another service user if they would like to sing, dance, or play their instrument with them. It's teaching them how to do that with a friend. And also teaching them sign language, which was really cool. But my point is that there is so much dignity in the training center. Like, we need that, but there's also so much dignity in my facility and in the facility that I worked in. Even the staff members would refer to the day center as work. Like, one of the service users would come in his dress slacks and his sweater vest, like carrying his briefcase every day to work. And he was so stinking cute. But he took it very seriously, and to him that was his job. And like, there was so much beauty and dignity in that. And I really found a lot of dignity in that as well. For the first time, I really felt like the gifts God has given me could be utilized. I remember 2 days in particular that I just felt such pure joy. And that was a joy that I really hadn't felt in a long time. And I couldn't explain why. It was probably like 4 weeks in to our service, and every day was pretty similar. You show up and you go to morning class, you go to tea break, and then you go to your activities for the rest of the day. And I just remember sitting there and reflecting, and I just really was filled with the love of Christ. I saw Christ in those service users. I saw Christ through the work we were doing. And I felt like I was doing the work that God had called me to do. And that just made me really excited. I got really off track. So there's dignity in all work because there's dignity in each individual worker. There's dignity in all work because there's dignity in each individual worker. It doesn't matter if you're CEO, and it doesn't matter if like the day center is your job. As long as we are using those gifts that we have given and finding the Lord in those jobs, that is a beautiful thing. If you think about it, like, if a businessman works in an office all day, that doesn't always seem like the most Christ-filled job. But every person he encounters that day, he can show Christ to. He can show Christ's love to that person. He could make a difference in that one person's life. And that's how we should live our lives, laboring for God. But I also want to iterate that it's okay if you don't know what your job is. That is not something I would ever expect of you as an 18, 19, 22-year-old, however old you are. Like, it's okay not to know, because what matters right now in this present day is our job as students. We are called to be students, or else we wouldn't be sitting here right now. And there is a lot of beauty in that. And I don't know about you guys, but I get really stressed pretty easily. And when I get stressed, I like to vent a lot, which I like to think it's going to take something off my to-do list, but it never does. But it takes one person to remind me what a blessing it is to be here. And it takes one person to remind me that God is here and that God will get me through the day. And it takes one person to just be that light of Christ that I need in that moment. We are called to be that light of Christ for others. It is just as beautiful to lead a Bible study as it is to study for your exam. And that's kind of crazy. Because God calls us to be his disciples, and he calls us to live out the gospel. He calls us to show his love to others. And we need Bible studies, but we also need to study. We just need a regular study. We didn't do very well if we didn't study. I wouldn't do very well if I didn't study. But there's so much beauty in that, because an A on that test can lead to a degree. And a degree can lead to a job. And a job can lead you to fulfill what God's plan for you is later on. But all it comes back to is right now, and God's call for you to work right now as a student. And so be that light of Christ to others. Be that person in the classroom who has a smile on their face. Like, make people wonder why you're so happy and why you're filled with the love of Christ. Because it is a blessing to be here. It is a blessing to have such a quality education. And it is a blessing to be surrounded by such motivated, hardworking people. But one thing that's also important to know is that we can have more than one job at a time. I would consider myself, like, my jobs as student, E3 coordinator, the Zoothon director, sister, daughter, all these are jobs. And it's how we're living those. Like, are we living them to the best of our ability? And it can be overwhelming, but that's when we have you guys to lean on. And that's when we have Christ to lean on, because he labored. God labored. He made the universe. He suffered for us. Jesus was a carpenter. He knows what work is. And he made us in his likeness to labor. And so he is going to be the number one man you can always go to when things get overwhelming and when things get hard. So to recap, what is labor? Using the gifts God has given us to work towards his kingdom. Why do we labor? We labor because God labored and he commanded us to. And how do we labor? Any way we feel called, because there is dignity in every work, because there is dignity in every individual. Thank you. Small groups tonight, and there's going to be some reflection questions that come up, but try not to get in groups bigger than 5 or 6. Just keep it pretty small, and then go ahead and talk about these questions.